we have seen one of the biggest shakeups on defensive side of the ball with the Minnesota Vikings that I have ever seen. Mike Zimmer has moved all of this cap space to defense, just kind of dismissing the fact that we need offensive linemen right now. The only thing we've done on offensive line is bringing back Dakota Dozier and trading for Mason Cole, both of which are not big moves for the Vikings on the offensive side of the ball. And then also cutting Riley Reef. So really, so far this offense, this offseason, the offensive line has gotten worse. But Vikings have totally focused on defensive line and are all around the defensive side of the ball. And this is solely because of how bad the Vikings defense was in the 2020 season. Now, the reason why the Vikings defense was as bad as it was, they were dead last in pass rush and one of the worst teams in coverage, was just because of injuries on the defensive line, injuries on the linebacker position, and lack of experience on the secondary. We saw Jeff Gladney, Cameron Dantzler, Chris Boyd, Holton Hill, Mark Fields, who am I missing? Harrison Hand. We saw so many inexperienced guys at the cornerback position where it really suffered with the coverage grade for the Minnesota Vikings. On top of that, Vikings were suffering all season at getting to the passer. Dead last in pass rush. And the reason why the Vikings were dead last in pass rush was because Danielle Hunter opting out the season and Michael Pierce opting out the season and Danielle Hunter's injury. And then obviously trading Yannick Ngakoue on top of that. So if we take a look at some key moves that the Vikings have made so far this offseason on the defensive side of the ball, some additions would be the Vikings adding Stephen Weatherly, Dalvin Tomlinson, Patrick Peterson, Nick Vigil, Xavier Rhodes, and Mackenzie Alexander. All of which they're going to see their fair shares of snaps in the 2021 season. Stephen Weatherly, Dalvin Tomlinson, Patrick Peterson, Nick Vigil, Xavier Woods, all those people I just said right there are starters. And Mackenzie Alexander would be a starting nickelback. All of the additions that the Vikings have added to defense are going to be starters, or are expected to be starters right now if the season were to start today. Now, I don't want to see Stephen Weatherly or Nick Vigil being a starter in the 2021 season, but they are as of today. And they will all see their fair share of snaps in the 2021 season. So Vikings solely focused on defense right now, and I can't say I'm disappointed. Now, I would like to see, obviously, players added to the offensive line, which was the biggest need this offseason, offensive guard. But I can't say I'm disappointed that the Vikings are focusing on defense as much as they are because of how bad and lack of experience and the amount of injuries on the 2020 season that the Vikings have had. On top of that, some key departures to mention. Shamar Stephen was cut with the Minnesota Vikings. Anthony Harris, Vikings moved on from him. They also moved on from Afadio Denebo and likely will move on from Eric Wilson and Jaleel Johnson. The reason why I say likely is because, yes, they're not with the team right now and they are in the free agent market, but Vikings can still have the option of bringing back Eric Wilson and Jaleel Johnson. And I can say right now Vikings are not going to bring back Jaleel Johnson, but it's a possibility that the Vikings will bring back Eric Wilson and he will be one of our starting three linebackers. So if the Vikings bring back Eric Wilson, that would be another huge move for the Vikings on the defensive side of the ball, and it totally shakes up our entire defense, especially on the defensive line. And that is going to be the biggest difference maker from the 2020 season to the 2021 season. Nobody on the Vikings starting defensive line will start in this upcoming season. And a lot of it has to do with injuries on why the Vikings defense was this bad. Danielle Hunter's injury, didn't play a single snap in 2020. Michael Pierce opting out the season. Once again, did not play a single snap. Anthony Barra injured a majority this season. Eric Kendricks was out for 5 weeks, and Mike Hughes also injured a majority of the season. If we take a look at the front four that the Vikings had last year, we had Afadio Denebo, Shamar Stephen, Jaleel Johnson, and then Ngakoue and Holmes. That was our starting front four right there. Now, Vikings don't have Afadi anymore. Shamar Stephen they cut. Jaleel Johnson will likely not be back. And then Ngakoue was traded, and Jalen Holmes obviously is not going to start this upcoming season. Jalen Holmes is under contract for one more year where he will be a backup interior pass rusher, and I don't expect him to be back. One thing I just don't understand with Mike Zimmer and with Rick Spielman is why Jalen Holmes started as many games as he did. Since the Vikings traded away Yannick Ngakoue to the Baltimore Ravens, I think that was week 3 or week 4. I might have to fact check that. Since the Vikings did that, Jalen Holmes started at right defensive end the remainder of the games. They're acting like we don't have someone even better. DJ Wanham proved that he was the best defensive end last year. Yes, better than Afadio Denebo. Not better than Yannick Ngakoue. Obviously, we're not counting him because he was traded. But DJ Wanham proved that he was the best defensive end that we had. That was healthy. And yet, he was still a backup and didn't see very many snaps. He won us the game against the Packers and still sat on the bench for a majority of every other game. And Jaleel Johnson was out there, or Jalen Holmes was out there, didn't get a single sack. Afadio Denebo was out there. I'm pretty sure he only had like 3.5 sacks last year, both of which should or will not be starting this upcoming season with the Minnesota Vikings. So let's take a look at how this Vikings defensive line will look in the 2021 season. And this is a dramatic change. It's a completely different change. Danielle Hunter, obviously, our stud pass rusher, the second best player that the Vikings have, sitting behind Dalvin Cook. Obviously, there's Eric Kendricks up there too. But Danielle Hunter is a stud pass rusher, and him being back will be huge with the Minnesota Vikings. Now, it also raises some questions, and it is a red flag because obviously Danielle Hunter hasn't played a full season in the NFL. Will he come back and be the Danielle Hunter that we saw in 2019 and 2018? Will he be that Danielle Hunter? I sure hope so. If he is, that will be a big difference maker on the Vikings defensive line and on the Vikings team as a whole, as he will be our leading pass rusher and our best pass rusher and lead the team in sacks. Danielle Hunter being back, Michael Pierce not opting out the season. Michael Pierce is another player who is a great run stopper. He will be our starting left defensive tackle. He's not expected to opt out another season, but if he does, that will be a big loss for the team. And then Dalvin Tomlinson signed with the Minnesota Vikings from the New York Giants, and then Stephen Weatherly at right defensive end. Now, the only problem I have with this, Michael Pierce and Dalvin Tomlinson, obviously great great run stoppers, and they can rush the passer from the inside. The only problem I have with this is obviously Stephen Weatherly as a right defensive end. Now, Stephen Weatherly didn't have a great season with the Carolina Panthers last year, and prior to that was just a very good backup for the Vikings. He never looked like a starter throughout his entire career. He hasn't looked like a starter. He did start a few games when Everson was injured. Obviously, Everson had that little mental breakdown or whatever it was in 2018 where Stephen Weatherly did step in and looked pretty good. But I'm not very comfortable with Stephen Weatherly starting for the Minnesota Vikings, and that's why I would like to see maybe Kwity Paye come in with the Vikings, drafted or would be drafted 14th overall. He is expected to still be on the board. He is the best pass rusher, and that's simply because of the lack of pass rushers that are in this 2021 draft. But him coming in, he would be our starting right defensive end, or even DJ Wonnum. Once again, like I said before, I would like to see DJ Wonnum take that starting role, and I think he has deserved it, and I would like to see him start over Stephen Weatherly. Now, once again, we're going to see how that looks. Obviously, with preseason, with training camp, we'll have to see how DJ Wonnum actually looks. But if he does look good and has a potential, I would put him over Stephen Weatherly to start at right defensive end because I do think he is our future and he will be our future alongside Danielle Hunter with not only this 2021 season, but going forward. And then on top of that, you take a look at our secondary. It is stacked. This Viking secondary is tremendously better than it was last year. Now, Anthony Harris, yes, he's a big name player. He was the top ranked PFF safety in the 2019 season, but really took a steep decline this last year. And Vikings moving on from him is going to be an improvement for the Vikings because he did actually hold us back last year. We're paying this player $11.4 million and didn't get a single interception last year and allowed far too many deep plays. Now, Harrison Smith coming back after the Vikings have given him a contract extension. Harrison Smith coming back, obviously the biggest piece on the Vikings defense last year, as we did have a lot of injuries. Harrison Smith and Eric Wilson were the only two factors that we had healthy on our Vikings defense throughout the entire 16 games. On top of that, Vikings signing Xavier Woods is a huge improvement, obviously, from Anthony Harris, who did not have a good season last year. On top of that, Cameron Dantzler coming in, sophomore player. It's going to really rely on how he can do because Cameron Dantzler, he's an undersized corner. He is a pretty small guy. And you're throwing him against Allen Robinson and Davante Adams. I just don't know. I know he had a great rookie season and he was one of the best rookie corners last year. I'm still not sold on Cameron Dantzler. I need to see more. Now, yes, this was a great third-round draft pick, and he was the best defensive rookie for the Vikings last year. I still need to see more. I want to see more from Cameron Dantzler. On top of that, though, Patrick Peterson, Mackenzie Alexander, two other players that the Vikings have signed this offseason, bringing back Mackenzie Alexander after he played 1 year with the Bengals, and veteran Patrick Peterson, who is Patrick Peterson, a big-name player. Now, you'll probably be confused why I said Cameron Dantzler on Davante Adams and Cameron Dantzler on Allen Robinson, as we do have Patrick Peterson, who people would argue that he is the better corner. Once again, he's older, and I don't think he can keep up at all with Allen Robinson and Davante Adams, as if any other corner can. I mean, you see Devontae Adams going against any corner and burns them. So this is why you need to double team Devontae Adams. So putting him on with Patrick Peterson, maybe with Xavier Woods together, double teaming Devontae Adams. This is something that the Vikings need to do. And if they can manage to do that, because no corner can go against Devontae Adams and look good. And we saw this last year. No man corner can cover Devontae Adams, except Jalen Ramsey. He actually did a pretty good job in the playoffs. He did win that battle in the playoffs. So you have to be an amazing corner to go against some of these guys, which Cameron Dantzler is nothing on Jalen Ramsey. Of course, he is only in his second year, so we'll have to see how that looks. So my projections for the 2021 upcoming season for the Minnesota Vikings on defense is this. Vikings will improve a lot when it comes to sacks. And this is a no-brainer. This is on no question. Vikings will have a lot more sacks this upcoming season than they did last year. And that's simply because our two best pass rushers are back, Danielle Hunter and Anthony Barr. With that being said, though, I don't expect the Vikings to be up there top 10 in sacks. And for that reason, I have them at 38 sacks, just middle of the pack at 16. The reason why is, yes, we have Anthony Barr and Danielle Hunter coming back, who are stud pass rushers. When it's third down, you're going to double team Danielle Hunter. When it's third down, you're going to block on Anthony Barr. Outside of that, who's going to be racking up the sacks? You can't pass rush with Eric Kendricks. That just doesn't make sense. And then on top of that, you don't know who your right defensive end is going to be and if they are going to be anything special at all, as Stephen Weatherly has not proved it yet. So for that reason, I think Vikings will be pretty middle of the pack in sacks, even though we are having Anthony Barr and Danielle Hunter coming back. But where the Vikings are going to shine is going to be yards per game. I believe the Vikings will have 330 yards per game, only 8th in the NFL. I think it's going to improve a lot from last year, and especially on run stopping. Vikings are going to be so much better this upcoming season, and I already can say that confidently, on stopping the run. If Michael Pierce comes back, if Dalvin Tomlinson will be back, but if Michael Pierce and Dalvin Tomlinson are able to stay healthy, and Eric Kendricks, I don't think any running back is going to be able to get through this Vikings defense. You get through this Vikings defensive interior part of the line where we have Dalvin Tomlinson and where we have Michael Pierce, you're one-on-one with Eric Kendricks. I still don't see a chance with these running backs. I think Vikings will be the best team against the run in the 2021 season. For that reason, I think they will be first, allowing only 76 rushing yards per game. I believe the Vikings are going to have the best run-stopping defense in this upcoming season. And this is after a season where we allowed 7 rushing touchdowns to the New Orleans Saints. And the reason why the Vikings allowed so many rushing touchdowns is because we had Jaleel Johnson and Shamar Stephen as our interior defensive linemen, and then Eric Kendricks was injured as well. And then obviously you look at the rest of the defense, and the Vikings defense was just overall terrible in the 2020 season. For that reason, Vikings will be the best team on stopping the run this upcoming season, and that is where the Vikings defense will shine. With that being said, Vikings pass defense is going to be a different story. I think the Vikings pass defense will obviously improve this upcoming season, but I don't think it's going to improve a whole lot, as I think the Vikings will allow 254 pass yards per game, which would be 24th in the NFL, and the reason why is just because of injuries. Now, you look at the Vikings depth chart on the secondary right now. Vikings secondary looks great, but we're going to have injuries. Patrick Peterson, injury prone. Mike Hughes, injury prone. Cameron Dantzler, injury prone. And Jeff Gladney, we don't even think he's going to be here next year. And you could throw in Mackenzie Alexander because he has had some injuries too. There is going to be injuries on this Vikings defense where teams will be passing all over us. And also, on top of that, teams will be passing all over the Vikings because they won't be able to run on us. So Vikings defense is going to improve a lot this upcoming season. But when it comes to pass defense and coverage against some of these teams where we are in a division with Allen Robinson and Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers throwing to them, I just don't see a scenario where the Vikings pass defense can be good at all. Yes, it will be improved from last year, but that's not saying a whole lot. For that reason, Vikings defense will improve a lot on stopping the run, improve a little bit on stopping the pass, and a whole lot when it comes to yards and points per game. And this is where the Vikings will shine, and this is where the Vikings will be the reason, will be that extra push that will bring the Vikings to the playoffs this upcoming season, because Vikings are every other year type of team. Last year, Vikings didn't make the playoffs. Before that, they did. Before that, they didn't. Before that, they did. Before that, they didn't. Before that, they did. It's every other year the Vikings make the playoffs. And this year, I do think the Vikings will take the division for the first time since 2017. And there's 7 teams making the playoffs now, and in 17 games. That's one more extra game where you can win, and you're going against the Chargers, so you should be able to win. So let me know what y'all think. How do you think this Vikings defense will look this upcoming 2021 season?